16, turn me up.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and my New York Mets are not only back, but they have arrived. They are here. I have a lot of notes here, and I'm already shaking just because that's how much of an impact Juan Soto's signing has on me right now. The New York Mets have arrived. 2024 was a transitional year. We've been talking about that forever. December 8th, 2025 is the defining transitional moment in the history of the New York Mets, in the history of New York baseball, and in the history of the framework of Major League Baseball.
So a lot of big words right there.
This Juan Soto, I could talk about the player forever. He's 26. He's, if not the best hitter, the second best hitter in the major leagues. He's going to be a Met forever. He's going to be a Met when I have kids. We're going to go to Citi Field, and my kids are going to watch Juan Soto mash home runs. But this signing, the player is great. This signing means so much to the New York Mets. Since 1913, the New York Yankees have been the kings of baseball. They've been the kings of New York City. It used to be the New York Giants and even the Brooklyn Dodgers for a little bit. There's this guy, Jacob Ruppert, that came in, bought the New York Yankees, built a stadium, said, you know what, Giants, you're making us play in the Polo Grounds. You're taking away home games from us. We're going to go to the Bronx. We're going to take your fans. We're going to send you out to San Francisco. Did the same thing to Evans Field. Did the same thing with the Brooklyn Dodgers. They're in LA now. The Mets had the 80s. The Yankees went out and won a bunch of titles in the 90s. The Yankees have done everything to push the Mets away, push New York baseball teams away for the past 100 years. And they had another chance to do that in this offseason. And Steve Cohen, with his big balls, his big money bag, said, hey, this is our town now. New York is a Mets town. Juan Soto is a New York Met. Oh, my God. I can't – I had this whole speech prepared, and I'm already, like, fumbling my words because I can't – it's been a day. It's been a day since this happened, and I'm still, like, in shock. When he bought this team, it was Juan Soto, the free agent, 2025. That's our guy. That's our guy. It's Juan Soto. He's going to buy Juan Soto. And even though I kind of believed it, they're still the Mets. They're still the Fred Wilpon Mets. 10 years ago, we had Frank Francisco as our biggest offseason acquisition. You don't expect it, and he did it. Steve Cohen did it. He brought Juan Soto to New York. The Mets have the third highest odds to win the World Series. We're in December. They still have work to do.
Dude, I'm happy for you. I am so happy for you. Look, as someone who loves baseball and knows baseball but doesn't necessarily watch all too much of the MLB, dude, Juan Soto is one of the most premier players you could possibly get. And I know there's Aaron Judges out there and Giancarlo Stanton's over there on the other side of New York. But when it comes to clutch hitting and postseason hitting, when it matters most, I mean, look at this guy's body of work. Juan Soto took the Yankees to this World Series last year. He's got a ring with the Nationals. I mean, like, this kid is just so impressive. And look, I'm happy for you. Yeah, it's someone who doesn't really care for the Mets, doesn't really care for the Yankees, whatever. I'm happy for you, Brian. I'm happy that you got your guy for the next 15 years. Is that correct?
15 years. And he hasn't opted out after 5, but all Steve Cohen has to do is raise his salary by $4 million a year. And he's a Met for life.
Oh, I mean, it sounds like Steve Cohen's got the money for that. So, hey, look, you're ecstatic. I hope that this plays out well. Hopefully the Mets get their ring. I don't know if it's coming next year or the year after, but they're juicing it up. I'm happy for you.
It's just like I brought it in and I said this is the transitional in New York sport. Like, even the Dodgers, who are the Dodgers, they're still making moves. Like, the big thing about them is their big three. They have Ohtani, they have Mookie Betts, and they have Freddie Freeman. I know Mark Vientos is a very young player, but Francisco Lindor is one of the best postseason players in the league right now. Juan Soto is the best postseason player in the league right now. And Mark Vientos is 24 years old, and he's just coming off the second best postseason of any player in baseball this past postseason. So those three guys are going to be with the team for the next decade at least. And it's just like
Look, that's awesome. I know you're at a loss for words. You're shaking. You're fumbling. I love it, dude. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
Look, but I mean, this is what always happens, though. You get these amazing teams on pay. This is what the Yankees have done for the past, I don't know, at least 10, 15 years now, I guess. Maybe even 20. When's the last time they won a ring? Like,
Oh
oh,
nine. They beat the Phillies
nine?
in 09. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's been 15 years or so. They always load their team up on paper. You look at it, every single year, it's stacked. You still got to go out there and win the ball games. But at the same time, I'm happy for you, man. You got a lot of good ball players in that clubhouse right now.
Yeah. Just go sign Pete Alonso, Steve. Get some more pitching and let's go win a ring next year. Oh man, I check
I
out
thought
our.
I
Go
thought I
ahead.
saw somewhere that they did sign Pete Alonso already.
There's a million Twitter wannabe insiders that are just pulling around everything, and that's one of the reasons I'm also happy the Soto news is finally done because you just saw a bunch of random rumors that were unsourced on Twitter like every night, and that's finally done with now.
Yeah, no more texts from friends of the pod saying congratulations before it's not over. Now it is. You
Nick
get it
did
one round now, and then it's done.
Nick did break the news to me again. Shout out Nick Stu. And I did not believe him. I had to go check Twitter and find Passan, find Heyman, find like three sources, cross-reference my sources to make sure this was actually happening. And it was. So thank you, Nick. Thank you for breaking that. Oh man. But I will end it there. I will have an extended just my thoughts on viewsfromcheck400.com. It's going to be a long rant, but I'm sure you'll be able to enjoy it, and I'll be able to actually put my thoughts into some coherent thoughts instead of just rambling on this podcast. But we did have some other news on Sunday. We have a college football playoff field.
Yes, we do, and I'm not necessarily happy about it, but let's talk about it.
What are you not happy about? South Carolina?
I'm not happy about these bogus Big Ten teams, and honestly, just half these teams don't have a shot against South Carolina. Don't have a shot against Alabama.
Okay, well, we got to dissect that because I don't know. I don't know how much merit that has. So you're saying Indiana would lose?
Indiana, Notre Dame, SMU, Clemson, maybe Arizona State. Like all these teams are not better than South Carolina or Ole Miss or Alabama.
Okay, well, Clemson and Arizona State won their conference, so they're getting in no matter what. Indiana, I could maybe, if you're just doing like a neutral site, who's favored or who, if South Carolina could beat them, I'll give you Indiana, but Indiana lost one game. And I know you're going to go back to Florida State, but it's 12 teams
No,
now.
I'm not going to go back to Florida State. I'm going to look ahead. Let's do that instead. Let's look ahead. What does this show you? Don't play in the SEC. It says get the hell out of SEC and you're going to make it to the college football playoff every year. You want to go play a cupcake schedule, you can make it. You only lose one game, you can
Well,
still get in.
yeah, I mean, the SEC had the most teams in.
I mean, but Brian, think about this as an Auburn fan. Yeah, but they also had the most teams right on the bubble.
That's
Think
true.
about this as an Auburn fan. We have Georgia and Alabama every year, and obviously that has way more weight right now than it ever has with the way those two programs have been. Tell me of these 12 teams in the playoff who has an Alabama and a Georgia on their schedule every year? None of them. I mean, why is Auburn doing it to themselves? And I understand, those are our rivalry games. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love playing Georgia. I love playing Alabama. Even though they're good, even though we're not right now, I still love playing them. I love the rivalry. But we have those two on our schedule every year. Tell me which of these 12 teams has a schedule like that. And I'm talking about two of 12 games.
Yeah, well, the issue it's you're gonna start seeing it now without divisions where Texas is gonna be playing both of them, and Tennessee will have to play both of them some years, and Georgia, so they can't play both. But
We're still just talking about SEC teams, Brian.
yeah,
People want to hate on the SEC and say Alabama are happy Alabama and South Carolina and Ole Miss are out of the playoff because they're SEC teams. They're better than half these teams. That's
And
my
but
problem.
we knew this issue was going to be an issue going in because Notre Dame's always going to get in because they don't play in a conference, and that could be a whole other issue. The
Yeah, they're-
Pac-12 or not the Pac-12, RIP, the Big 12 is getting in because they have to, and they're probably only going to send one team in every year, and then the Big Ten is going to have a couple teams in there. So there's just not that many spots. And then if you want to go even make it 16, then we're going to have the same argument when we have a four-loss SEC team that say, hey, let's make it 24. It's just the nature of what it is, and it's unfortunate, but there's not going to be, and like we can argue for it, but a three-loss South Carolina, a three-loss Alabama, they're good enough to beat any of these teams on any given day. But they
yeah.
lost three games they're not good enough to win three games and win the college football playoff because they lost those three games. They might be good enough, but they proved with bad losses throughout the year that their chances of winning three games in a row are much less than these other teams because they've had those three losses.
But how do you say that to a South Carolina team that just won six straight and beat one of these teams that's in the 12?
South Carolina is definitely the biggest. I won't say snub, but they're the biggest, what if because they got hot at the right time. And that's just unfortunate. They just struggled early too much.
I think you said something earlier that the SEC had the most teams, or yeah, most
I think
teams
they're
in
tied
here.
with the Big Ten, right?
Well, I think the SEC only has three teams in here. They have Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee
And
versus the Big Ten, which has Oregon, Ohio State,
and
Indiana, and Penn State.
yeah, and that dang Indiana. So yeah,
So
it was Indiana's
those,
one loss was worth more to the committee than a three-loss SEC team.
but you want to put, I would take the three SEC teams in here plus, yeah, I don't care who you give me, Ole Miss, uh, South Carolina, or Bama. I would take those four over the four Big Ten teams that they have in here.
You take over Oregon, over Ohio State,
I'm saying
over Penn State
I'm talking about a
as
collective
a
body.
collective unit.
Yeah, yeah. I would take the SEC's four against the Big Ten's four, and I don't think it's close.
So you're sorry, you're giving the four snubs, or you're saying the three that are in plus South Carolina over the four Big Ten that are in?
Honestly, honestly, I don't even care. Brian, you could pick four SEC teams out of the three that they have in here and the three that they left out. You could give me any four of those teams, and I would take like those four. I would take the SEC over the Big Ten.
See, I think Oregon's clearly the number one team there. So they're the best team.
I can't take that away from them.
And then when you really get down to it, I think who are you going to go second best? The best SEC team would be, we'll say Georgia since they won the conference. So Oregon beats Georgia, and then you go to Texas versus like Penn State. I think that's on a neutral field. That's an even spread.
I'm giving it. I think Texas wins that game handedly, though.
Maybe Quinn Ewers isn't very good, and Texas has some issues. They're not a perfect team.
Offensively, yeah,
They have a lot of talent there, but they're not a perfect team. I think that's really close. And then you get down to Tennessee and Ohio State, and we'll see how that game goes.
yeah, yeah. We actually get that one.
Yeah. Ohio State is favored by 6, I think, right now. But they did get the home game.
And then you want to put Indiana up against any of those other SEC teams. No
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah, on a neutral site, Alabama's favored by like 10. South Carolina's probably favored by 8.5. Ole Miss is probably favored by like 8.5. But it's again, it's like you can't they lost one game. If they lost two and you put them on that same pedestal, like Miami, we don't even talk about Miami. Miami lost two, and they were ranked as the same as the three loss teams. So if Indiana had two losses, then the three-loss SEC team probably gets in, but they just lost one.
Okay, but this is like this is what I'm trying to get at is no team in the SEC had less than two losses on the year. Everybody had two or more losses, two or three losses. Like that is the staple for the SEC versus every other conference, including the Big Ten. You have teams that go undefeated or have one loss. That's the staple. Like being in the SEC, like based on what we're seeing this year, should give you like a two-game bump. If the two lost like coverage, if that makes sense.
No, and I agree. You're making good points, but it's like that two loss coverage is what we got to, and they just said the one loss just means that much more. Like it was that close, but I think they're willing to give the SEC a game, one slip up in the conference to a team you're not supposed to lose to, and they're going to say, all right, that's fine. We saw that with where Miami was ranked and where the SEC teams were ranked. But it's a 2 game buffer, and I don't know if you can justify putting a 3 loss team in over a 1 loss team. I just in a 12-team playoff, if you leave out a team with 1 loss, what are we doing? It's a lot harder to justify that than playing the what if game of 3 losses team would beat a 1 loss team.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. Look, I can understand why the playoff made the picks the way they did. I'm just not happy with it because I don't think that the 12 best teams in college football are in the college football playoff.
And that's fine. I still think at the end of the day, we have this 12-team playoff. When we had the 14 playoff, we saw the top 2 ranked teams were in it 85% of the time at the end. It's we can talk about this all day, but it's going to be Oregon, it's going to be Georgia, it's going to be Texas, maybe Penn State at the end, and that's where we're going to end up.
I
And
really think Penn State. You're just gonna like slide Penn State in there like that?
Penn State got an interesting draw. They played Oregon well, and
They did. They did play Oregon well. I mean,
they
look,
get
I feel like
SMU, and then they
we're
get
at the
Boise.
we're at the point where we might as well just call our bracket now. We might as well just talk the bracket. We talked about the decisions of the 12 teams that got in. Now, who wins these games?
Yeah, the Final Four will be Penn State. As much as I love Ashton Ginty, it'll be Georgia, it'll be Texas, and it'll be ooh I say no, I didn't say Oregon yet. There you go. Yeah, Oregon, Penn State, Texas, and Georgia, and the final will be Oregon. I think Georgia's gonna win.
Look, I'm telling people do not be surprised if this college football championship is an SEC championship rematch of Georgia versus Texas. I think Georgia has a very easy path to the semifinal. I don't care who wins out of Indiana or Notre Dame. I think they get cooked by Georgia. And then you move on to the other another region, SMU versus Penn State. I would have to think the Nittany Lions win that game. I don't know if they beat Boise. I think, they get one college football playoff win under their belt, and then they collapse to a Boise team that's really just playing good football. I do like Boise, but that's a tricky matchup. And then I think Georgia rolls whoever comes out of there. So I have Georgia in the final. And then I'm going to go to Texas's, region. I think that they could slip up and lose that game to Clemson. But if they win that, they have a pretty easy game next round against Arizona State, and they're going to be in the semis. Oregon, for being the number 1 seed, the 12-0
They got
team,
screwed.
they got screwed,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Having to go against Tennessee or Ohio State, whoever wins that game has a threat. I mean, they're two of the. I think outside of Texas, they're the 2 best teams in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever comes out of there right now, I do have it as Tennessee. I think Oregon beats them. So my final 4 is Oregon, Texas, Georgia, and Boise State. So that's the only place we differ there. I got Texas and Georgia in the final, and I think Texas wins it.
Third
I,
time's
I
a
don't.
charm for Texas.
Third time's a charm for Texas, unless this is a Jaguars Titans. What was it, 1999, where Georgia's just they're the Titans and they beat this awesome Texas team 3 times in the season. Texas's only 3 losses in the season are to Georgia.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Could be the way it goes, man.
It could be. And yeah, my only gripe with this college football playoff, I understand giving the conference champions the bye, but I don't know if Boise State and Arizona State would hate it if they didn't get the bye and you just gave it to the top 4 and then had them host a first round game. because it's not like they're going to be favored on a neutral site in one of these New Year's Six bowls
Oh,
against a
so
team that
wait,
gets out.
so second round is neutral site.
Yeah, it's just one of the New
So
Year's Six.
okay, so only the first round is home field.
Yeah, and I think these like Boise State would prefer playing in Indiana at home than having to play a Penn State at a neutral site.
Yeah, but either way, like I understand that, but like you're not gonna take an extra game. You're gonna take the bye. It's
Yeah,
one less game you have to play. A whole extra week you get to rest your starters, watch this team play. The other team has to go and expend some energy playing that
that's
game,
true.
risk injury, and you get to sit there. I can guarantee you, Boise is gonna be watching that whole team, the whole staff, the entire college might be like watching the game together doing, dissecting the plays. I mean, the team won't be
Yeah,
obviously.
the
They'll
watch
do
party.
their own. They'll have a watch party. They'll be dissecting everything that SMU and Penn State do. Getting ready for the next week, for the next game, and dude, everybody wants a bye. But I do
Yeah,
understand. I do understand wanting to host like a playoff game on your own turf. Like that's what I can understand. Like wanting to do that.
yeah, and it's a more winnable game, really. I don't. I guess it's just like the college basketball fan of me, and it's not really a good comparison because the talent and the stage of the postseason are so different. But like, I'm thinking like the 16 seeds in the first four. If you win that game against another 16, you get to say you won an NCAA tournament game. You get all the money. You get to raise a banner. If you the 16 seed, unless you're UMBC or FDU against the one, you're going to lose by 50, and that's your tournament. So I don't know. It just the in me, it's like you could win a college football playoff game at home versus being like Boise State's probably 10-point underdog against Penn State. If SMU beats Penn State, maybe that's a close spread, but
You're just making the argument for why these teams shouldn't be in there and other SEC teams should be.
they deserve to be in because
You're
they
you're like
played
you're like,
well.
oh, let me get these guys a charity win in the first round so they can have
They
a
won
play.
their conference.
I don't care. Their conference is dog shit.
Well, no, if it was complete dog shit, they'd be like Army and ranked at 22.
I'm just saying, man, you should understand this. It's SEC football. It means more.
I know it means more, but it's just don't lose to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma and Kentucky.
Bro, you don't have to sell me on Alabama. I'm talking
Ole Miss
SC.
lost to Kentucky.
I'm still talking SC. SC deserves to be in this damn playoff.
Okay, well we'll get to that in a Bowlmas episode in a couple weeks here, and then
Yes.
you could really just rant about it. But
Don't worry,
it,
I'll have some real SC fans ranting about it. You won't have to hear my ass deal. You'll have some real hard hitting Carolina graduates talk about it.
and I know our Bowlmas episode with FSU is still our top ranked episode ever, so I'm sure we'll get some angry South Carolina fans this year.
I'm sure we will.
But yeah, that's college football and a little bit of a different Monday show here. I guess it's coming on Tuesday. My brain's still not working from Juan Soto, but now we can finally get to the NFL, and it is always presented by SeatGeek. The weather may be getting cold late in the year, but the sports action is heating up. With the final stretch of the football season upon us and basketball season now here, the only place to go for the best tickets for each game is SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Views from Section 400 podcast, and whether you're looking to sit courtside of the Sixers game, find a last-minute deal up in Section 400 for the Iron Bowl, or looking to just cheer on your alma mater in a preseason basketball tournament, SeatGeek's one-of-a-kind system helps you find the best deal for the best seats in the house. Use code VIEWSFROM400 at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code VIEWSFROM400 at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek, your best night ever is waiting. Thanks as always to SeatGeek and myself for that wonderful ad read. I know a lot of you are going to games soon, so you might as well use our code and get some $20 off here. I don't know if Jack or I will be going to any NFL games anytime soon, but Jack, your team won.
Why? No, listen, I mean, I was at the game last week in Duval against the Texans, division leaders. If we had won that game, I would have been fired up. And then we go and win in Tennessee this week. super fired up. But we lost to the Texans. We ended our season at home last week against the Texans with Trevor getting decapitated and with us losing, I don't even know, like our seventh game in a row. So I don't know what we're doing going and beating Tennessee and blowing our shot at the number one overall pick. Our shot is not dead in the water, but the Raiders and the Giants should not be winning another game this season. So I'm pretty sure it is dead in the water. And on top of that, you got Doug Peterson coming out in the press conferences saying, "Oh, this is just the start of something new, guys." No, it's not. No, it is not.
The fact
Get
he
out of
still has a
town.
job is crazy to me.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. It doesn't make any sense to me. He won't win us a Super Bowl. He won't get us to the playoffs next year. Like, I don't know why he's still there. Maybe it's just to save face for a little while longer, let him coach out to the end of the year and let him go. I don't know, but he is not our coach next year. So I don't know why he's still there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where it starts. It starts and stops there. I mean, I don't know why we won this game. We really didn't do too much. Like the Titans just didn't want to win this game. Like even they scored 6 points. I mean, our defense has been one of the worst in the league all year, and they scored 6 points against us. And don't get me wrong, I watched the game. Our defense was playing very good. A couple of guys stepped up big time. Jerry Jones, rookie, dog. Okay. Very excited for the future. Him alongside Tyson Campbell. If Tyson Campbell can stay healthy, our secondary will be pretty good. Something I haven't been able to say since 2017 when we had Ramsey and Boye. So that's exciting. Tank Bigsby had a nice touchdown, like a 15-yard rush, stiff armed the dude, barreled the play into the end zone. War Eagle. So shout out Tank Bigsby, shout out Jerry and Jones and a couple other guys on that defense. But I didn't want to win this game, Brian. I wanted the number one overall pick. I wanted your Giants or the Las Vegas Raiders to throw us the fucking house and the kitchen sink for the number one pick to trade up and get your guy. We'll happily trade down to the number 3 spot and grab Travis Hunter and continue on our day with even more draft capital. That was the dream scenario. We lost it. Whatever. I'm done.
You won in Nashville. They got the party on Broadway. Tank probably had some fun on Broadway.
We always win in Nashville. They're a bunch of bums.
Yeah, he kept Westbrook Kenya out of the end zone. So that's a win. And you also held Calvin Ridley out of the end zone in his revenge game. So a lot of good things happened.
Yeah. I mean, we held everybody out of the end zone. They scored 6 points. They had 2 field goals in the first half. I think that was the only points they scored all game.
Yeah, Nick Folk might be their best player.
He might be at freaking 38 years old.
Very reminiscent of Graham Gano a couple years ago. Not this year. Maybe he's on the tankathon. He doesn't want to retire yet. He's like, let me get Cam Ward or Shador in here. And he misses a field goal. And the New York Giants lose again, 14-11.
That was awesome for you. I mean,
did you hear the cheers after he missed?
Yeah. You guys did exactly what the Jags were supposed to do. Not win the football game.
Yeah.
Look, you never want to intentionally have your team lose. But when you're a 2-win football team, when you're a 2-win football team in week 15 of the NFL football season, you should not go be a 3-win team.
Yeah, but these guys are going to try. I don't think it's actually, it may have been in the mind of Drew Lock because he had a wide open run and he did a 90-degree ankle towards the sideline on a 4th down where they didn't get it. It's kind of wild.
I did not see that play, so I don't know about that one.
It may have just been Drew Lock being dumb, but I want to think he wants to be the backup quarterback on a team with Shador Sanders next year.
This dude is literally Alex Moran. He just wants to live as the backup quarterback.
It seems like he'd want to be him too.
He's like, I'm going in. I'm starting. Oh, I don't want to play. No.
Yeah, and Derek Carr also got hurt in this game. So the second string, I can never remember this guy's name, who their second string is now, because Taysom Hill's out, so they don't have an emergency
Taysom
quarterback.
Hill's out. They sent Spencer Rattler out of town.
Yeah, it's I want to say Holden Grenier, but that was the Auburn
Wait,
guy.
wait, no, it is Spencer Rattler, isn't it?
No, he was throwing passes for the Raiders on Sunday. We went over this, I think, last week.
I'm sorry, did they draft Spencer Rattler this year?
You know what? I'm doing this thing you did last week. I'm mixing up Spencer Rattler and Desmond Ritter.
Desmond Ritter, right?
Desmond
Exactly.
Ritter's on the Raiders, and Spencer
Yeah,
Rattler's on the
exactly.
Saints.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler is who they drafted this year.
Yeah, but I think they had I want to say I want to keep saying Holden, but that's not his name. But
What is the Rat Pack hurt or something?
I think he did get hurt, or he's just their third string because he sucks.
I mean, yeah, we're spending too much time talking about this now. It's the Saints, it's the Giants.
Yeah,
It
but now I
was
want to know
okay. Well, you can know. We're gonna keep it moving for our listeners, though.
what's next.
Next
The
game on
Eagles?
the what?
Go ahead.
Next game on the slate. Eagles beat the Panthers in a very tight game, 22-16. Bryce Young actually is looking pretty good, pretty competent. He's got Xavier Legette to blame for not beating the Eagles. I mean, did you see that drop by
Yeah,
Legette
it
at
was
the
a
end of that game?
it's a microcosm of what happened earlier in the day when Ole Miss and Bama were left out of the playoff. Get a Bama quarterback to a or South Carolina, even worse, South Carolina. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Bama quarterback, South Carolina receiver. They're both just
Hayner,
devastated.
that's the quarterback on the Saints. Jake Hayner.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of him. Why do I know his name?
He went to Fresno. I think he played a little bit before in the season. He was definitely throwing passes. I don't think it was Spencer Rattler, but yeah. Do we really have to spend much time on the Eagles here? Matt's not here.
No, we don't. I mean, they got lucky. They beat the Panthers by a hair. You call them 9 wins in a row, 10 wins in a row, whatever it is now. But you got to beat the Panthers by more than 6 points if you want to be a Super Bowl team.
Panthers are kind
Moving
of
on.
sneaky. They're
Who?
covering. Panthers are covering spreads like no other. I'm not saying they're good, but they're covering.
They're still a 3-win football team.
Good teams win. Great teams cover.
Moving on to the Dolphins and the Jets, an AFC East divisional matchup. Dolphins pulled this one out 32-26. Dude, I mean, the Dolphins look pretty good. I'll give them that. Offensively, Tua was kind of cooking. Achan, Waddle, Hill, everybody. He got everybody going. Jonnu Smith in the overtime session had like 3 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown after not having a catch all game.
I was gonna
So,
say we'll talk about the Views Fantasy League in a bit because we're entering the playoffs now. But I wish my season mattered because I had Jonnu with a 0, and then all of a sudden he had 13 like 5 minutes later after the game goes to overtime. And I wish I wasn't terrible in the beginning of the year because that would have been incredible. But yeah, he won a lot of fantasy matchups this week after having a bagel through 4 quarters.
yeah, that's actually insane. I mean, when you get that touchdown as a tight end, it makes your week. It doesn't matter if you have 1 catch for 1 yard and a touchdown; it still makes your week.
Yep.
But it's pretty crazy, seeing him not have a single catch all damn game. If you're playing against him, you're happy as heck. Then they go into overtime, and this man puts up an entire game's worth of fantasy points at the tight end position in one drive in overtime.
Yeah, it's I want to say the Dolphins are alive now, but they're really not. They got to
They
get
need a
by.
lot of help.
Yeah, they need a lot of help. They're gonna have to get by Bo Nix and Broncos, and I guess the Chargers are still 8-5, so they can still get past them. But I want to see the Dolphins in the playoffs.
Yeah. Over the Broncos, sure. Not over the Chargers.
Yeah, maybe. Can you imagine? And I can't believe I keep going back to these hypotheticals, but the Chargers with the Dolphins pass catchers be a hell of a team.
That's actually scary. It actually scares me to think about having Tyreek Hill have Justin Herbert throwing the football.
and Jalen Waddle and Johnny Smith. And I guess throw in Achan. Get rid of
No,
the
look, all the weapons. I'm 100% there with you. There's not a single position, weapon player on the Chargers that I would rather have over anybody on the Dolphins. I mean, Lad McConkey is amazing in his own right. I'll give him credit for that, but I'm taking Waddle and Tyreek all day.
Yeah, you probably keep McConkey on there over Odell, I guess is their third string. No.
Having him as a third string is insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, away from the hypotheticals, the Dolphins still have a shot. Need a lot of help. I'm not going to sit here and put money on them to do it though.
No, knowing the Dolphins, they'll lose the Texans next week, and then the Niners the week after, and then Jameis will light up the world, and then they'll lose to the Jets, and they'll be 6-10, and we'll be thinking, why did we ever think the Dolphins would make the playoffs?
I don't know about that. I think that they could win 2 or 3 of those games. I'm not going to lie, but let's move on to the next one. Steelers Browns, another divisional matchup in the AFC North this time. The Steelers come away with the win, 27-14. I didn't watch too much of this game, but the parts that I did, it just looked like Steelers played good, methodical football with George Pickens out, and the Browns just they got Jameis. It was a bad Jameis game where he was doing the turnover thing, and they kind of suffered from that.
Yeah, they also let Kadarius Toney try to return a punt, and that was not a good idea.
I cannot believe he is still in the league.
He might not be after that last month.
Do you remember when your Giants drafted him in the first round?
Dude, he had like 150 yards against the Saints. I thought he was going to be the next Hotel.
Remember when you guys spent a top 15 pick on him?
Yeah, he was good, and then he had a fake injury, and then he was good, and then he had another fake injury, and then he hated Daniel Jones.
He's like George Pickens, but not good.
He's George Pickens, but he went to Florida, and he got the Florida stink from the Urban Meyer, Florida.
Yeah, he is not very good. Jerry Jeudy came back down to earth in this one,
He had a touchdown.
but he came back down to earth. It wasn't a 10 for 225 yards and a touchdown game.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'll give that to you though, especially against a good Steelers defense. It's encouraging to see Jerry Jeudy continue some good games. Moving on to the next one.
Wait, I do have to give a shout out to Najee Harris, and I know you like Najee Harris.
Why? No, I don't like Najee Harris.
He won you a prop, and I think week 1 when you bet on his prop.
He's won me a couple bets. Just because you win me a bet doesn't mean I like you. He went to Alabama.
Yeah, that's also true.
He's not a very fun runner to watch.
Well, that's why I have to give him a shout out, because you don't think of him being fun, but he's slowly about to be the 13th player ever to have 1,000 rush yards in his first 4 seasons.
In each of his first 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean he's a fun runner to watch. You want to know why he's getting to 1,000 yards a season? Because Mike Tomlin says, "Here's the football. Go run it straight up the middle and try and push forward as far as you can." 20 times a game. It's infuriating to watch. His stat line is 20 attempts for like 60, 70 yards every time. Like, this dude has no breakout speed, no shifty moves. Like, he just runs forward, bowls as far ahead as he can. And it's not even like he's thick at that. He's not running people over like Derrick Henry. Like, I hate watching him.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy you set it up this way, because I'm going to ask you who you think the last player to do this was. And it's about as the complete opposite of a running back as you could think.
Complete opposite of a Derrick Henry and a Najee Harris.
You just put Derrick Henry and Najee Harris in the same conversation.
As far as the type of runner, they're power backs. I mean,
Yeah, but Derrick Henry's ripped off, like, I think against your Jags multiple times, he's had like 99-yard touchdown runs.
You're saying this like I haven't watched it for years, Brian.
Okay, either way.
I know. You want to go look up literally, you could look up any single Derrick Henry stat line from any game the Titans played the Jags over the past 5-10 years. or every game that he's featured in, and he's got 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brian, I am well aware of this man and what he does to the Jags.
Okay, well, either way, you want to guess who the last player to do this was.
Last running back to start his first 4 seasons with 1,000 yards rushing.
Yeah, I'll give you a hint.
I don't want a hint.
Okay.
I don't want a hint, but we are going to take a small little pause here. So when it cuts back in the clip, you'll know because I'm going to think this one through. You're not stumping me on this one. Actually, I do want a hint. What year?
Your hint's Derrick Henry.
Fuck you.
No, it's not Derrick Henry. That's your hint.
Oh, it's not Derrick Henry?
No, but that's your
hint.
hint.
I thought you were just busting my chain right there. My hint is Derrick Henry. All right, so that's making me think a couple of things. I think that's screwing with me now, Brian. Because now I'm thinking Alabama running backs. Now I'm thinking Titans running backs like CJ2K or something like that. You're throwing me on a loop now, bro. Can you give me the years? Was it CJ2K? Was it really?
Yeah.
You're like looking at me like you're about to shit yourself.
Yeah, well, you were looking off in the distance thinking, and I was like,
that's how I do it. I gotta look out into yonder to think about things.
Yeah, it was CJ2K. It's like the complete polar opposite of Najee Harris.
That is so surprising. Before Najee Harris, the last person to have their first 4 seasons in the NFL of 1,000 yards rushing was CJ2K.
You're seeing a lot of committees now. A lot of these rookies aren't getting the full workload.
But still, did Jonathan Taylor have an injury that made him not hit that number?
Yeah, that's also like Saquon was injured, so you're seeing a lot of these injuries to the workhorse backs.
Damn.
Yeah, I was surprised Joe Mixon didn't get there, but I guess he was dealing with suspensions.
Because he also didn't. He was in a committee too, though. Like Giovanni Bernard was a huge part of that offense for a while.
Yeah, that's true. I guess, yeah, but that was really the one I was thinking of. But besides Saquon and Jonathan Taylor, there hasn't really been that workhorse. We're probably forgetting a guy, but
well, I'm surprised Derrick Henry didn't do that.
I think he was hurt for a little bit at one point in his first 4.
Well, no, you want to know what it was? No, whoever was the offensive coordinator at the time, didn't use him. They had somebody else there that's not coming to mind, and they just didn't use Derrick Henry, which was crazy. Yeah. Can't even remember who it was. It was a running back that wasn't all that good either. I might be just throwing slander here, but it was an Alfred Blue or something like that who was getting.
Alfred Blue won some people some fantasy championships. Don't talk down on Alfred Blue.
A running back like that, like a DeMarco Murray, after his explosive
Michael
fantasy
Bush.
Cowboys days, someone like that.
Michael Bush was also a fantasy goat, though, so I can't. But yeah, one of those type of Jeremy Hill, someone like that. I know what you mean. I forget who it was too, and that's gonna kill me. Yeah, he was a Bengal for a little bit, and then the Patriots, I think. But what's the next game? Falcons.
Falcons got mauled by the Vikings. 42-21, the Vikings took this one. Darnold had 5 passing touchdowns against the old former Kirk Cousins. I thought Kirk was going to have a good game, a little bit of a revenge game factor, even though he's too nice of a guy to have a revenge game. Revenge game factor, playing in his old stadium. I thought that he was going to show up and show out, but 21 points, man, it's not going to get it done.
No, and Kirk Cousins now in his last 4 games, he has 8 interceptions to 0 touchdowns. They're 0-4.
Yeah, he's been struggling. There's no doubt about that.
It might be Penix time. Penix. I always say his name wrong. There was a guy with a Penis Junior jersey at the game that was going all over Twitter. I thought that was pretty hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that that's a good move to make. I really don't.
What do you have to lose? He stinks.
What do you have to lose? You're shot.
You're not going to win the Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. Not this Kirk Cousins.
Okay, well, to be fair, I have always been in the camp of Kirk Cousins is not good enough to win a Super Bowl. But if you're the Falcons and seeing the way that this season has gone and the way that the rest of your division is shaking out right now, there is zero reason to hit the panic button. Like you still are what, one game back in the division?
Yeah, but the division stinks. This team was six
But
and
that's
three. We
but
called them
that's
the second best team in football or in the
okay.
NFC.
I think we were just trying to troll Matt a little bit. But look, if you look at their last four games though, this 4 game skid that they're on, I don't I'm not gonna blame Kirk too much, man. He's faced some pretty elite defenses over that stretch.
He hasn't thrown a touchdown.
The Chargers,
Jameis just
the
had 500
Vikings.
yards against the Broncos.
He also threw like 3 picks and lost the game, dude. Like, what?
Yeah, but he threw a
So
bunch of
what?
touchdowns. He was able to find the end zone and put up points.
Okay, but that has never been Kirk Cousins' MO. Like, let me just sling it around the field for 400 yards, throw 3 picks or throw 3 touchdowns, but throw 3 picks with it. Like,
Yeah,
he's much more of a game manager, smart quarterback than that.
yeah, I don't know. It's just
And
we're
I know that.
approaching, and I hate to call Kirk Cousins this, but we're approaching Derek Carr territory with Kirk Cousins this season.
I think that's fair. I mean, let's not forget that in like the first half of the season, Kirk Cousins was, I shouldn't say the first half because they did look like shit the first week or two. But there was a stretch during the season where Kirk Cousins looked like an elite quarterback. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not just saying like he didn't just look really good, he looked elite.
he looked
Um,
good, but now he's not.
dude, he had like that 500-yard, 4 touchdown game against the Bucks where he was just lighting it up, and people were like, "Okay, like he, like this is the year." Like, and that's understandable after seeing a game like that. But then you go on a 4 game skid like this, ebbs and flows, right? I'm not throwing in the towel just yet. You're still in the race for the division. Why would you pull the plug and try out a rookie quarterback with less than 30 NFL snaps?
Because he's doing terrible. He's playing terrible football.
So you think, okay, so you're in the camp of pull the plug, start Penix, see if he can develop quick enough for our playoff push.
Yeah, and then if you make the playoffs, give him a playoff start. I don't think there's any harm in that. At this
Okay,
point, unless Kirk
because
Cousins can completely turn it around. In the NFC, you're looking at the teams in the North and the Eagles. The Falcons aren't better than any of those teams, and they know that. So why not just try to make the playoffs and then see what you have?
but that's my point. Is you think that they have a better shot of making it to the playoffs by hitting the panic button and throwing in Penix versus riding out Kirk?
I think it's even, and if it's not even, it's not marginally worse with Penix than it is Kirk Cousins. This version of Kirk Cousins. The Kirk Cousins we've seen over the last month. If Kirk Cousins can figure out how to be the Kirk Cousins that he's been for some of his career, where he's been above average, then sure, but not this Kirk Cousins.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, again, I've never like this was the first year I've been in on Kirk Cousins. I've never been in on him until this year. So it's kind of funny to being on the opposite side of this conversation for once.
Yeah, and I'm normally a Kirk Cousins truther too, but it's just I
I
don't
know.
know.
That's weird. That's weird how that happens.
I guess I just want some fun. It's I'm like I said, I'm getting Derek Carr Saints. I just put in the young guy and make it more bearable for Falcons fans and NFL fans.
No, I think that's fair though. Like the Derek Carr comparisons are definitely fair. Speaking of Derek Carr, his former team, the Las Vegas Raiders, got smoked by the Bucks, 28-13, as expected. I mean, look, the Bucks are a pretty decent team. I know their defense is trash, but everything about the Raiders is trash. There's a reason why
Hey,
the
Sincere McCormick's kind of cool. I like
okay,
him.
you want to name individual players, sure, but I'm talking about the team, the units, their ass, the offense, ass, the defense, ass.
Yeah,
The owner's haircut, ass.
yeah. There's not a lot of good things going on. And I was about to say Oakland, Las Vegas. Yeah, no. I hope they give McCormick the carries for the rest of the year. Not just because I have him on my fantasy teams now.
Uh, I don't have too much from this game. It seemed like the Raiders finally tried to do something other than throw to Brock Bowers 20 times a game, and they were only able to put up 13 points. Makes sense. I know Aiden O'Connell got hurt in this game. See about his availability in the future. On the Buck side, I know Bucky Irving got hurt. Rashad White looked really good in relief. I know Rashad White entered the season as the main guy, and Bucky sort of took over, but looks like that's going to be flipping with the injury.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I do like the way Bucky Irving runs. And Rashad White, he kind of runs like Le'Veon Bell, but his pad level is even higher, and he's even
Wait,
slower.
yeah,
So it's just not very fun to watch him run the football.
yeah. I don't think he's a very good running back.
No, but he can catch passes. He's got good hands.
Yep, he's definitely a good receiving back.
He's a lot like I forget. He's got to be like 24, right?
He's very young, very young.
Yeah, 24-year-old Rashad White looks a lot like 30, however many year old Alvin Kamara.
Um, I think that is a very nice compliment to give Rashad White. Um,
It's more just Alvin Kamara looks very. I won't put the washed label on him, but he's lost a step, and Rashad White kind of looks like he never had that step.
yeah, yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But I'm gonna sit here and compare. You want to make me compare him to somebody? It's gonna be DeAndre Swift. Terrible vision. They both suck.
I think Swift is faster though, right?
Sure.
He can at least, if he's in the open field, he can run.
Oh, Swift in the open field is awesome.
Yeah, Rashad White in the open field, he gets hawked down every time.
Okay. So maybe that's not a good comp. I'm comparing their
You're
vision.
comparing bad running back to bad running back.
Yeah, I am. I hate watching DeAndre Swift. I want to make that very clear.
I don't know if NFL fans will have to watch him for much longer.
Yeah, I hope not, dude. Blow it up. That Bears team is not good.
Yeah, I guess we can go right to them and we'll leave Seattle Cardinals for a little bit. But the Bears at one point against the 49ers were getting outgained 310 to 2.
And I mean, that's kind of what you expected out of these guys last year, not what you would expect this year. Um, but I
Yeah.
guess I guess we're at the point in the season now where the 49ers are fighting for their lives to try and make a playoff spot, and the Bears are ready to throw in the towel. So looking forward to next year. So this kind of made sense. 38-13 route. There's not much to talk about here. Isaac Garendo
Got
did his
hurt.
thing. What?
He got hurt.
He got hurt?
They can't have a healthy running back in San Francisco.
No. When have they ever had a healthy running back in San Francisco? This
Uh,
is
you forget
that's
Frank
been the
Gore.
thing for years. For years. Raheem Mostert days, like even before him.
Well,
The Carlos Hyde and the Frank Gore days. Nobody's ever been able to stay healthy as a running back in San Francisco.
probably the curse of Frank Gore because he was there for forever, and then now they just can't get a reliable guy.
16 seasons, and they said, you know what? We don't want to play with you anymore halfway through there. So
Yeah, Eagles legend Frank Gore. But the Seahawks,
what?
he was an Eagle for like 15 minutes on trade deadline day way back when.
Okay, I thought you were being serious with that. I didn't know he was there for 15 minutes.
No, great video. It's like a 5-minute black screen on YouTube, and it just thanks for the memories, Frank Gore. Go Birds. Um, but Seahawks beat the Cardinals 30-18.
Yeah, this was I think this was a statement game by the Seahawks. That's what I'm going to say. This was a statement game by the Seahawks. They took it to the Cardinals. Zach Charbonnet had a very, very, very impressive game, filling in for Ken Walker, who was out again. That dude is always hurt, but I think the Cardinals are toast, dude. I think this was the one. This was the one where I don't really care. I don't care how you finish your season. This was the one where you're done for.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well, if you have the box score in front of you, if Marvin Harrison did anything, but I'm really disappointed in myself.
No, he did not have a great game. I'll pull up the box
Okay.
score,
Well, then I'm
but
not very disappointed in myself because I had the Marvin Gaye and Charbonnet parlay right in front of me, and I did not pull the trigger. But yeah,
Jay and Charbonnet.
Trey
He,
McBride, the most receptions now in a season through 12 weeks without a touchdown since 1970. He has 76 receptions, has not found the end zone.
wow, that's actually very surprising, especially being a tight end, a big receiver, or big target like that. That's very surprising. Marvin Harrison Jr. 4 for 49.
Yeah, so the Marvin Gaye and Charbonnet parlay would not have hit because I probably would have put like 100 yards. But yeah, Charbonnet played well. And when I go home for Christmas to my parents' house, I have a Seahawks hat from the days when I coached a Pee Wee flag football team. We were the Seahawks. And I think I'm just going to have to start rocking that on podcasts now because I was high on the Seahawks coming in. They had the Washington guys now, and they're playing well. So maybe in a bad football season by me, I'll just jump on the Seahawks bandwagon.
You might as well, dude. Led by Zach Charbonnet. I mean, look at this stat line right here: 22 carries, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then through the air, 7 receptions for 59 yards. I mean, this guy was all over the place. 29 touches. Shout out Zach Charbonnet, game of his career.
Yeah, game of his. And he might just be better than
Kenny
Kenny
Dobbs.
Walker. Yeah,
Well, look, at this point, for a guy who only comes in, like Ken Walker is great too. I don't want to take that away from him. When he's in there, he does really well when he's healthy. But Zach Charbonnet stays healthy. I mean, if I'm a GM, if I'm coaching this Seahawks team, Ken, I love you, buddy, but get out of town. Trade him away. He's an asset. Let me put it that way. He is an asset. Another team. You look at the Packers with Josh Jacobs. You look at the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. I think that there's going to be another team going into next season that wants a premier running back. Ken Walker can give you that. I mean, the Bears signed DeAndre Swift to however money this past year. Ken Walker should be worth way more than that. I mean, if the Bears sign Ken Walker instead of DeAndre Swift, they probably have an extra 2 or 3 wins right now. And I'm not saying that as a joke. The Bears have been in a lot of really close games, and I bet if they had a good running back that could have made a couple extra plays here and there, they might be a playoff team right now.
yeah. No, I like that a lot. I could see him going to a lot of NFC North teams. He'd be a good fit with the Vikings too, with Aaron Jones getting up there in age. You
Yeah,
kind of committee them, and
definitely.
even like the Niners, if McCaffrey, who might be that time to ride off into the sunset.
The only reason why I'm going to say Ken Walker does not belong in San Francisco is because the average running back you put in San Francisco can't stay healthy. If you put Ken Walker out
That's
there,
true. Yeah.
he's playing 3 snaps a year. He's Aaron Rodgers. He's Aaron Rodgers season last year.
Yeah, I'm sorry I put that into the world, Ken Walker. Do not listen to me. I know you're a big listener of the podcast, so
We
just
love you. Don't go to San Francisco.
don't do it to yourself. But we are up against the clock here. We have our first Bowlmas recording tonight with a special guest who you guys will see in a couple weeks here. All right. Well, like I said, we're up against the clock here, so rapid fire reactions here for 2 games. Bills Rams. Josh Allen, first ever player, 3 touchdowns passing and rushing, and they
Best
lost.
game, best game of the year, easily my favorite game of the year. Josh Allen, absolute superhero, so freaking good. There's just nothing else to say. He is amazing. Hitting Amari Cooper in stride on a couple of crazy balls. Amari Cooper made some great plays. Khalil Shakir always find his way open. The Bills were rolling despite the loss. Why did they lose? Because of a mother named Puka Nakua. That
Mm-hmm.
dude is easily one of my favorite players in the league. Probably my favorite player. I'm not going to lie. And I know he's not on the Jags, but that dude plays with so much damn heart, so much grit and toughness. And on top of that, he just makes the most unbelievable plays. Like that sideline catch that he had, contorting his body, keeping the 2 feet in. I mean, it's incredible. This was a big one for the Rams. They needed this one really badly.
They're alive.
Yeah, they're definitely alive. Most definitely alive. I'm not counting McVay and Stafford and Cooper Kupp out. And then on top of that, let's not forget about Dre. Don't forget about Puka Nakua. Don't forget about Kyron Williams. This team, their defense isn't good enough to win a championship right now. I don't think so. I think they're a little too young still. But look, just a phenomenal game. Stafford dueling it out with Josh Allen. This is peak NFL football.
Yeah, this was definitely one of the games of the year so far, and I know we're up against it, so I'll be real quick. But the Rams not very far behind Seattle, and they get the 49ers on a short week when the Niners don't really have a running back. And I know they're kind of alive, but if the Rams can get by them, they get the Jets, the Cardinals, and then the Seahawks to end the season. So this NFC West is still really up for grabs.
And look, the Rams, not the Rams, the Niners were without Trent Williams and Nick Bosa in this last game. And, they won pretty handily against a team they should handle. So shout out to them for that, taking care of business. But not having Trent Williams and not having Nick Bosa in a game against the Rams, that's a big deal.
Yep. And Seattle has to finish with the North. So they have the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears, and then the Rams, of course. So it's going to be an interesting end to the NFC West season. But
definitely.
The end of Sunday night, the Chiefs got away with it again. I don't know how they keep doing this, but they donked in a field goal to clinch another AFC West title.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're going to leave the game up to Mahomes on the last drive to go down the field and get into field goal range, not even score a touchdown, but just get into field goal range, he's going to do it 9 times out of 10. So this was a pretty gross game to watch. I did not enjoy watching the Chargers or the Chiefs play in this football game. So no real notes from me outside of, we're in week 15. The playoffs are right around the corner. If you want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, you got to be up by more than 1 point heading into the last drive.
Yeah, it's the Chiefs. We can talk about them being lucky all we want. If it's going to be a close game, they're going to make the play to win the game. I think that's where we're at.
And that's what experienced and elite experienced players and coaches do. Like Andy Reid wins those games. Patrick Mahomes wins those games. I mean, how did they win that game? Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce on some breakdown scramble drill kind of play. There wasn't really necessarily a breakdown, but it was designed. But still, that is how they won this game. That's how they're going to go try and win games in the playoffs. Teams need to know that, and they need to be aware of that in quarters 1 through 3, so that when it comes down to crunch time in the fourth, this last second debauchery doesn't cost them a game, because that's how the Chiefs have won 10 of their freaking games this year.
Yeah, they're also going to need Harrison Butker to get back, because
definitely.
I know he made the kick, but backup kicker's a little bit shaky. But yeah, I didn't watch much of this game. Juan Soto signed at halftime, so I was all in on Twitter and just watching that go down after. But yeah, that's the show. A little bit of a different show with the Juan Soto news and the college football, but I think we got through it well. We did a good job, and we have Bowlmas coming up here. So that's all I have. 15 year, can't point right. 15 years. Juan Soto's a New York Met. Let's go, Mets.
You are now in the mix with DJ.
For once, they paid more than the Yankees. I mean, what else can you say? Tides returning.
I'll be him.